I never thought I would ever put my name on a ballot. But having been a first responder during the pandemic and then coming out of the pandemic as well, like some of the things that we've talked about, I just couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore.
During our recent trip to Ottawa, we had the privilege of sitting down with Conservative nominee for the riding of Canada, Greg Kung.
Let's take a look. So we're here with Greg Kung, who is the Conservative nominee for the new riding of Canada since the boundary change in April. If any of you are going on 338 Canada and you are looking for people, the MPs by their last name, most likely you won't find them because all of the ridings or many of the ridings have changed. And so they actually don't really exist as the new MP for the new riding because the new riding, it hasn't been elected yet. So we wanted to sit down with Greg Kung, who recently became the candidate for the riding of Canada, to just ask him some questions, understand who he is, why he chose to become a candidate for the Conservative Party, and just get to know a little bit more about the process. So we're going to be going easy on you, Greg, so no hard questions, but tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run.
Well, thanks for having me. I mean, I would say if there's one thing that we want to let people know about me is that I am a frustrated millennial that has just been very concerned about the direction of our country in the last few years under the Liberals. I think there's some things that would motivate anyone to probably jump into the political arena, but I'm a millennial, 35 years old, that my wife and I, we take these things seriously. We talk a lot about politics. We met in politics. So it's a big part of just things that we talk about. My day job, I'm a full-time paramedic. And I would say that's probably a big area where I got front row seat really to probably some of the major things that are going on in our society that are frustrating me and kind of motivating me to run. Outside of that, I like playing sports. Traveling is a big part, but yeah, we have a lot of work ahead. So it's a really humbling experience to be in the position that I am in right now, and knowing that we have an election on the horizon. What do we got to do to get ready so that we can kind of fight for the people who are definitely hurting in this country?
So going from paramedic to politician, that's a pretty big jump. What sort of things were you seeing that inspired that?
You're not the first person to ask me that question, funnily enough. I think the best way to describe it is probably to give you a glimpse into what paramedics or frontline workers, first responders kind of go through on a day-to-day basis in their jobs. We get an incredible opportunity to go into the homes of people on their worst days. Sometimes it's their best days, but most of the time they're not in a great spot. We've had incredible exposure to an increasing amount of youth mental health problems. We're seeing people that just don't have access to family doctors. We're also the team that usually brings our patients to the hospitals and have to wait with them in hospital hallways for like 5-6 hours before they can get seen by somebody. You get to be able to talk a lot about politics, about the issues of the day, just about personal life with your patients when you're sitting in a hallway with nothing better to do. I would say also we see seniors that are at home that are really getting probably left behind during this cost of living crisis. They're choosing between what groceries do I buy for the week, and I also have all these meds that I gotta pay for. What do I put my money towards with finite resources? So some of these really challenging social scenarios that we get put in really makes us wonder whether the current government is leaving a lot of Canadians behind. So needless to say, I think the best way that I internalized that was we need to continue to make sure that we have, maybe it's not politicians, but public servants that are willing to serve the people and keep our eye on the prize, which is serving the people and making sure that they have everything available to them when they need it the most. They always say first responders run into the line of fire. They go into these homes, the homes that are burning first. Maybe we need some more people to jump into the political arena to make sure that Canada gets back on track.
So in a way, you're almost a first responder as a member of parliament at this point, because Canada certainly does need the help right now.
It does. I've been really encouraged to see there's some other nominees, that have been coming out of the woodwork under in a Pierre Poilievre Conservative Party that are from the first responder world. Policemen, we have some firefighters, ex-military, people that just understand what public service is all about. And maybe we need to return to that message of public service is about actually not dividing the country, but actually serving everybody regardless of their political ideology, their religion, some of their personal beliefs, where they come from. That's kind of the creed that many first responders live by day to day. So.
And what inspired you to join the Conservative Party over the others?
I would say it's been a while since someone has articulated some of the real hurt that the Canadian public is going through. I think what drew me to the Conservative Party and running at this time was Pierre Poilievre and some of the messages that he is trying to hit on. Cost of living, housing, a crime rate that is exploding in this country, and just understanding that when we make smart decisions at the federal level, when it comes to debt, when it comes to what we spend our federal tax dollars on, it can have a major impact on people's lives. So I wasn't hearing those messages from the Liberals. I believe that Pierre cares about our country and the direction of Canada in, let's just say, even 5-10 years. Who should Canadians trust the most to try to set us back on track? I'd love to be a part of that team that actually kind of delivers on some of that change, for sure.
One thing you said, I think, is going to be music to the ears of many Canadians, because I think there's an underlying assumption among some Canadians that have lost faith in the political system that all politicians, they're lawyers, they're from the elite, they're rich people, but the fact that you yourself are a paramedic, you're commenting on the fact that there are other first responders, policemen, firefighters, especially in the conservative circles, it sounds like the occupation for a politician is not reserved for the elite. It literally can be any Canadian from all walks of life. Is that fair?
I think so. I certainly think so. I'll tell you, I never thought I would ever put my name on a ballot. But having been a first responder during the pandemic and then coming out of the pandemic as well, like some of the things that we've talked about, I just couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. And I think there are a ton of people out there that might not be the traditional politician industries that are looking at a Conservative Party and getting excited about the fact that maybe they can also make a difference. And I believe that they can. I look at some other candidates, and I'm so super excited to see the skills and expertise that they bring. We just need more common sense voices in government, regardless. And I think a lot of people perhaps even underestimate the value that they can bring to that discourse, for sure.
Speaking of getting your name on the ballot, what was that process like?
It was a process.
It was a process. You know what I think I really appreciated about that is that nominations happen obviously in every single party. The benefit of that is that you do need to go to the grassroots and the people that you want to come and vote for you, I guess, to be the candidate. I really appreciated that process, being able to just at a micro level talk to people about the issues that they were facing and connect with them on some of the things that motivated me to run in the first place. And I think well, I hope that some of the passion that I had in jumping into this arena kind of bled off, and that people actually, it resonated with them. It's a great process in the sense that if you can connect with the grassroots, it can also reaffirm why you get into public service in the first place. It's funny, we're here in Canada, and unfortunately, sometimes it is these same patients in some homes that we go to on calls, and it puts into perspective that when you're serving your community in one way, how can I channel that to serve them in the political sphere as well?
How are you balancing being a nominee with your day job now?
Well, you'll have to ask my wife how well I'm balancing that. But
she's not here, everybody.
I'm a very driven person, and I believe in Pierre's message to bring change to this country. And I think the team that he's amassed, the team that he's building, is everyone's on the same page. And the thing that keeps us going, regardless of if we have nights where we don't have enough sleep, is that we keep hearing it at the doors. We keep hearing people in our constituencies telling us these things that, hey, I can't afford to even pay my rent. Hey, I immigrated here to Canada and I don't have a house. I can't afford to buy groceries for my family. Hey, I don't have a family doctor. I have to go use the emergency room instead of being able to see a doctor. Meanwhile, we have almost 15,000 not family physicians, but foreign trained doctors, and it's a big area that Pierre is trying to address. All these things, they keep coming and hitting you at the door. You'd have to be really insular to not notice that there is a lot of things that we need to work on in this country and improve. If everyone's on the same page, I think you can set aside some sleep a little bit to just say, hey, we have a country to fight for, a future to build for the next generations as well. That should give you a lot of energy, and I certainly think it does for me.
How many doors would you say you've knocked on so far?
I think I've lost track. I try to balance, obviously it is a balance with your work schedule and campaigning, but we've certainly hit around, I would say probably like 15,000 doors so far. And that's just, as long as you can kind of consistently bring your message to the people, introduce yourself to them, whether it's a 20-minute conversation with someone at the door, it's worth it, right? And so we're not really assigning timelines to it all. We just want to make sure that we meet as many people as we can and share with them what a Conservative Party would like to do for this, for Canada, and why I believe in that vision that Pierre has set out.
Well, my follow-up to that, and this may be difficult considering it's 15,000, if you could narrow it down to one door that has inspired you the most to work for that person or Canadians, can you recall what that conversation was about?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I think it's probably 5, 6, 7 doors that have said this exact same thing, and we'll take it back to the lack of family physicians for some of our constituents here. I think for a long time we've had the Liberals say, use the slogan, healthcare is broken, but that's out of one side of their mouth, but then on the other side, nothing gets done. And what drew me to run under Pierre was his proposal, the Blue Seal program. I won't get too much into it, but essentially what it does is it tries to put foreign trained doctors and nurses to work to serve in some of the capacities that they were trained and that they're passionate about, but unfortunately they're sitting at home, unable to actually serve the community that they want to. I remember talking to a senior lady a couple weeks ago at the door, and she just said, hey, I haven't had a family doctor for 9 years. And in that time, I've just been sometimes going to the emergency room, waiting a long time just to try to get a prescription renewal. I am very computer illiterate, so I can't use telehealth, or I can't use some of the virtual avenues that others might be able to. And I said, this is a basic thing that we can be working on. I think Pierre understands that healthcare delivery is entirely provincial, but he also believes, how can we give the provinces the tools that they can deliver on that mandate for the people? So I believe that we've done it before with the red seals and skilled labor here in this country. We can do it again for a healthcare space that sorely needs manpower and getting in there so that people can actually get the healthcare delivery that they deserve, frankly.
And that sounds like a very different, it doesn't sound like it is a very different approach than what the Liberals would have us believe is the answer, because it seems like what Trudeau and the Liberals have tried to do is almost interfere with how the provinces are actually running healthcare or actually running education and the other programs, whereas Pierre's Blue Seal program, as well as some of the other ideas that he's had, he seems to want to more complement what the provinces are doing and enable them to be able to do what they need to do in form of new legislation, and essentially taking the handcuffs off of what they're actually able to do. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Very early on, I'm sure you might recall, Pierre was talking about removing the gatekeepers. And there's gatekeepers that exist in a lot of different industries. I think from my viewpoint in healthcare, there are some gatekeepers that we need to, not say that we need to remove, but certainly that we need to be able to work with and try to remember who we're trying to serve at the end of the day. It is not, it's not the pocketbooks, it is the patients, the people that are demanding healthcare services. We need to keep them in mind in every decision that we make, that the provinces make, that the federal government tries to assist the provinces in doing. I think this is just a way that we can try to assist them. Are we going to fix every problem overnight? No. But I do truly believe that Pierre has the best interests of people when it comes to, when he says removing the gatekeepers, he's thinking of the Canadian in mind at the end of the day.
So one of the topics that has dominated the House of Commons recently is the fact that the BC government essentially had to beg Trudeau and the Liberals to essentially recriminalize the hard drugs out in BC. And as a result of that, the Liberals were forced to turn down both Montreal and Toronto's request to do that. Since you have seen this behavior, the addicts, no doubt many times at the ground level, what is your thoughts on safe supply and the impact that it has?
You're absolutely right. I think I have had an incredibly, perhaps it's a sad opportunity to respond to an increasing amount of overdoses, even right here in suburban Canada. And it's something that you never really want to see. I think the discourse in the House of Commons has been, the Trudeau Liberals have not wanted to admit that they made a mistake on this. They have not wanted to admit that safe supply is not the only answer for this, where Pierre and the Conservative caucus is hammering, rightfully so, is how do we actually focus on treatment? How do we focus on recovery? We cannot just keep kicking the can down the road and expecting that one day magically these people that are suffering are going to wake up and say, I'm done using a very addictive substance. We need to have a government that is sticking up, again, for Canadians and looking out for their best interests. We need to be ensuring that there's funds and resources available to them so that they can actually get better. That is the end goal of healthcare. It is the end goal of some of these organizations that are looking for addiction recovery, is so that we do not just allow them to continue being addicted to these substances, is that they can eventually get off of them and return back into society, return back to their families. It is a very sobering. It is a very sobering moment when you have to tell a parent or a family that their loved one may not actually be coming home. That that this was the one overdose that sent them over the edge. I think it's a compassionate approach, and I believe that Pierre is talking about the right things in the sense that we're talking about safe supply, we're talking about decriminalization, but through all that discourse, we're not talking about the treatment and recovery options. So I think the focus on how we actually get these guys, men and women, off the drug and back home is the right approach.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Greg, and all the best in the upcoming election. And we're hoping it's going to be here sooner than later.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.